LeSean McCoy carried the football 2,457 times during his NFL career. Marshawn Lynch carried it 2,453 times. That's the difference of just 4 carries. Not 400, 4. That's one late game drive. Or, in Marshawn Lynch's case, roughly the amount of time it takes for him to locate an unattended golf cart. And yet, despite nearly identical rushing workloads, these two created completely different careers. McCoy gained more rushing yards, caught 231 more passes, and finished with exactly 15,000 yards from scrimmage. Lynch scored more touchdowns, became one of the most productive postseason running backs ever, and helped define a championship team. One danced around defenders, the other occasionally treated defenders like folding chairs. So today, we're comparing Shady McCoy and Beast Mode in 6 categories: production, peak, accolades, team success, longevity, and legacy. One check at a time. The numbers tell part of the story. The context tells the rest. Let's settle it. The 2010s were a strange time to be an NFL running back. Teams were passing more, shotgun formations were everywhere, and the traditional 300-carry workhorse was slowly being placed next to the fullback and the blockbuster membership card in the museum of things we apparently didn't need anymore. But Lynch and McCoy remained central pieces for their offenses. They just did it differently. McCoy was built for space. He could run inside, catch passes, change direction without warning, and turn a routine check down into a defensive coordinator's resignation letter. Lynch was built to remove space. He ran through contact, finished plays violently, and made tackling look less like a fundamental football skill and more like a deeply regrettable personal decision. Both were named to the NFL's 2010s All-Decade team. They were not merely contemporaries, they were two of the defining running backs of the same generation. Lynch entered the NFL first. Buffalo selected him 12th overall in 2007 after a memorable career at Cal. And by memorable, I mean Lynch once celebrated an overtime win over Washington by commandeering an injury cart and driving it around the field in full uniform. Most players hug their teammates. Marshawn briefly became Cal's director of transportation. The cart ride followed a 31-24 overtime victory in 2006 and became iconic before social media had fully developed the technology to turn every funny sports moment into 9,000 reaction videos. Lynch produced consecutive 1,000-yard seasons in Buffalo, but his career changed in 2010 after a trade to Seattle. That move gave us Beast Mode. It gave us Beast Quake. And it gave Seattle an offensive identity that perfectly complemented one of football's best defenses. McCoy entered the NFL 2 years later as Philadelphia's second-round selection in 2009. He quickly became one of the league's most versatile backs, succeeding in Andy Reid's offense before exploding statistically in Chip Kelly's system. McCoy eventually became Philadelphia's career rushing leader, then produced 3 consecutive Pro Bowl seasons after being traded to Buffalo. And yes, there is something wonderful about Buffalo eventually replacing Lynch with McCoy. It's like trading a pickup truck and several years later buying a sports car. Both will get you there. One just takes a very different route through the parking lot. Let's begin with the statistic that makes this comparison work. McCoy had 2,457 rushing attempts, and Lynch had 2,453. Almost identical volume. But McCoy turned those carries into 11,102 rushing yards compared with Lynch's 10,413. That is a 689-yard advantage despite McCoy receiving only 4 additional carries. McCoy also averaged 4.5 yards per attempt. Lynch averaged 4.2. But Lynch has an immediate counterargument: touchdowns. Lynch scored 85 rushing touchdowns. McCoy scored 73. On virtually the same number of attempts, Lynch found the end zone 12 more times. That isn't statistical decoration. Touchdowns are the entire reason the offense is out there. Lynch scored once every 28.9 rushing attempts. McCoy scored once every 33.7. Inside the red zone, Lynch was more direct. McCoy might take 3 steps left, reverse field, make 2 defenders miss, and somehow gain 9. Lynch's approach was generally, I have reviewed your defensive alignment and decided none of you are relevant. But rushing is only part of a running back's production, and this is where the category turns. McCoy caught 518 passes for 3,898 yards and 16 touchdowns. Lynch caught 287 passes for 2,214 yards and 9 touchdowns. That gives McCoy the advantage in receiving. Combined rushing and receiving, and McCoy finished with exactly 15,000 yards from scrimmage. Lynch finished with 12,627. That's a difference of 2,373 yards. Lynch still leads in total touchdowns, 94-89, But once receiving scores are included, his 12-touchdown rushing advantage becomes a 5-touchdown overall advantage. So the trade-off is clear. Lynch produced 5 more touchdowns, McCoy produced more than 2,300 additional yards, and McCoy didn't create that separation merely through extra opportunities. He averaged about 5 yards per offensive touch compared with approximately 4.6 for Lynch. I know we're really diving into the details here, but with a category this close, I think it warrants it. Lynch was the more efficient scorer, McCoy was the more efficient yardage producer. McCoy moved the offense further, Lynch finished slightly more drives, but production must include everything a running back does, not just what happens after the quarterback turns around and hands him the ball. Production goes to LeSean McCoy. Peak is the closest category in this entire episode, and the answer depends on what we mean by peak. Are we looking for the best single season, the best 3 or 4 year run, or the player we would most trust during the most important stretch of games? Let's begin with McCoy. His 2013 season was spectacular. He led the NFL with 1,607 rushing yards, added 539 receiving yards, and finished the league-leading 2,146 yards from scrimmage. He averaged 5.1 yards per carry and finished second in Offensive Player of the Year voting. And then there was the snowball. McCoy ran for a franchise record 217 yards against Detroit in conditions that looked less like an NFL game and more like the final level of an Arctic survival video game. That performance perfectly captured McCoy's game. Balance, vision, acceleration, and the ability to change direction while everyone else appeared to be wearing rental skates. McCoy also had an excellent 2011 season, producing 1,624 scrimmage yards and 20 total touchdowns. Lynch's single-season peak wasn't quite as productive overall, but his sustained peak was stronger than many people remember. From 2011 to 2014, Lynch rushed for 5,357 yards and scored 56 total touchdowns across 63 regular season games. In 2012, he ran for almost 1,600 yards and just over 5 yards a carry. In 2014, he produced 1,673 yards from scrimmage and 17 total touchdowns. And unlike McCoy, Lynch's peak carried directly into deep postseason runs. So Lynch has the better argument for sustained power, postseason performance, and week-to-week reliability during championship window. McCoy has the better individual season and the higher all-purpose offensive ceiling. This is basically choosing between the best movie and the better trilogy. And before Seattle fans begin launching Skittles at the screen, I understand the Lynch argument. Speaking of Skittles, Lynch's mother introduced them to him as Power Pellets when he was young. The habit eventually became so closely connected to him that cameras catching him and eating them on the sideline turned into one of the NFL's most recognizable player-brand relationships. Most athletes had carefully formulated nutrition plans. Marshawn had a big bag of candy and the confidence of a man who knew he was about to run through an outside linebacker. But the category is peak performance, not peak snack marketing. McCoy's 2013 season combined elite rushing, receiving, and efficiency at a level Lynch never quite matched during a regular season. Barely. Peak goes to LeSean McCoy. And that check is written in pencil. Category 3, Accolades. This category is more straightforward. McCoy made 6 Pro Bowls and earned 2 first-team All-Pro selections. Lynch made 5 Pro Bowls and earned 1 first-team All-Pro selection. McCoy led the NFL in rushing once and rushing touchdowns once. Lynch twice led the league in rushing touchdowns. And both were selected to the NFL's 2010 All-Decades team. Lynch's recognition was excellent. McCoy simply had 1 additional Pro Bowl and twice as many first-team All-Pro selections. Accolades also goes to LeSean McCoy. Updated scoreboard, McCoy 3, Lynch 0. That score looks comfortable. It isn't, because we haven't reached Lynch territory. Category 4, Team Success. McCoy officially owns 2 Super Bowl rings. Lynch owns 1. So McCoy wins, right? Not quite. Championships matter, but team success category must measure the player's contribution to that success, not whether he was standing near the confetti. McCoy joined Kansas City late in his career and played only 1 offensive snap during its 2019 postseason run. He was inactive for the Super Bowl that year. He then won another regular season championship with Tampa Bay after carrying the ball only 10 times during the entire regular season. Those rings count. He earned his place on those teams, but they do not carry the same weight as Lynch being the offensive centerpiece of consecutive Super Bowl teams for Seattle. Lynch ran for 970 yards and 12 touchdowns in 13 career playoff games. McCoy ran for 222 yards and 1 touchdown in 7 playoff games. Lynch scored the first Super Bowl touchdown in Seahawks history. He had 4 different postseasons with a game of at least 130 rushing yards, and Seattle's championship formula was inseparable from his presence. Dominant defense, control games, and beast mode wearing down anyone unfortunate enough to be scheduled that week. This is not rings versus no rings. It is contribution versus association. McCoy has more championship jewelry. Lynch did considerably more championship work. Team success goes to Marshawn Lynch. Scoreboard is now 3-1 with McCoy in the lead. Now talking about longevity. Both players spent 12 seasons in the NFL. Both recorded 6 1,000-yard rushing seasons, and both remained productive with multiple franchises. But McCoy played 170 regular season games compared with 149 for Lynch. He finished with more rushing yards, more scrimmage yards, and more career touches. He also remained a productive starting back through 2017 when he was 29 years old and recorded more than 1,500 yards from scrimmage for Buffalo. Lynch's timeline was less conventional. He retired after the 2015 season, returned with Oakland, disappeared again, and then reappeared with Seattle in 2019 like Batman responding to a particularly urgent signal. The returns added memorable moments, but McCoy supplied more continuous career value. Longevity goes to LeSean McCoy. Category 6, Legacy. McCoy is one of the greatest Eagles ever. He is Philadelphia's career rushing leader, a member of the All-Decade team in 2010, and the owner of one of the most visually exciting running styles of his generation. His snowball performance is iconic. His cuts inspired a generation of young running backs to bounce every carry outside, usually while their coaches screamed for them to please follow the pulling guard just once. But Lynch became something larger. Beast Mode was not merely a nickname. It was an identity. The Skittles, the interviews, the golf cart, the backward dives, the stiff arms, the earthquake run against New Orleans. Seattle's Beastquake became one of the most defining plays of the 2010s, and Lynch's punishing style became permanently connected to the identity of the championship franchise. You could explain McCoy's greatness through a complete statistical resume. With Lynch, the statistics are only the beginning. Fans remember how his runs felt, the anticipation when he broke the first tackle, the noise when he reached the secondary, the sudden realization by a defensive back that his afternoon had taken an extremely negative turn. McCoy's career was more productive. Lynch's career became mythology. Legacy goes to Marshawn Lynch. The final score is 4 categories to 2, but this was much closer than that score suggests. Lynch wins team success and legacy because he was a genuine postseason force, the offensive heartbeat of a champion, and one of football's most unforgettable personalities. He also scored more rushing touchdowns and more total touchdowns despite playing fewer games. His strongest argument is simple. When the games became bigger, Beast Mode became more important. But McCoy wins the comparison because of his total body of work was more complete. They received virtually the same number of carries. McCoy produced more rushing yards at a higher average. He then added 231 receptions and nearly 1,700 more receiving yards. He had the better single regular season, earned more individual honors, and provided more continuous longevity. Lynch was the better postseason running back. McCoy was the more productive all-around offensive player. And across an entire career, that receiving advantage is too large to treat as a footnote. The winner is LeSean McCoy. Not because Lynch's touchdowns don't matter, not because championships don't matter, and definitely not because Skittles are an inferior sideline snack, although handing someone a rainbow-colored candy immediately before he collides with a 300-pound defensive lineman remains an aggressively optimistic nutritional strategy. McCoy wins because he created more total offense from the same era, with almost the same rushing workload, while adding a greater versatility and individual recognition. McCoy had the better resume, Lynch had the more unforgettable resume, and sometimes those are not the same thing. Evidence over emotion. Who would you rather have? LeSean McCoy for an entire regular season? Or Marshawn Lynch for those big games? Make your case in the comments, and remember, saying Beast Mode 12 times is emotionally persuasive, but it does not technically qualify as evidence. Thanks again for watching. I'm Jake Adams with Jake Adams Sports, and please continue to tune in as we continue to do these versus episodes on former greats across the entire sporting landscape.